Hello and welcome to Kick-Ass Brand Show. I'm Andrei Mincov, the founder of Trademark Factory, and today I have another exciting guest for you. Please welcome Michael Liebowitz. He's an expert in the field of brand strategy and behavioral neurology. He's the CEO of Magnetic Mind Studio, which works with business leaders to optimize three important elements of business communication: standing out from the crowd, getting attention, and persuasive communication. Now, which business doesn't need that, right? To grow. Every business needs that to grow. And Michael challenges his people to go beyond the superficial so that they can connect meaningfully with their audience and land the sale without struggle. If you run a business, if you want to improve how your marketing message lands on your dream target audience, then you're in for a treat. Turn off all your distractions, listen up, and let's just jump right into it. Well, Michael, great to have you on the show. Really excited, and looks like we color match too. So
I know, right? I noticed that too. We both decided to wear this kind of color of shirt. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, Andrei. Thank you for having me.
There you go. So excited to have you and get you to share with Kick-Ass Brand Show audience what you have to say about building a kick-ass brand. It looks like if there's anyone out there, you'd be the person to share that wisdom. So.
For sure.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
Why don't we start with your story? How did you end up doing this? Like, you've got a unique twist. And I'd love you to share that with the audience.
Yeah. So just to catch the audience up, I combine brand strategy and behavioral neurology, which is kind of an odd combination. So how did I get there? Well, for the past 27 years plus, I forget now, you stop counting after a certain age, right? I have been in and around the field of brand, specifically in industrial design, which means I have to, in that line of work, I have to interpret a brand into three-dimensional form and have it be useful for a human being, and express the brand in the way it's shaped, in the construction of it, and also just be able to be manufactured. And I was happy in that career. But in my work in that, I've worked with pretty much every single global branding agency on the planet. And so my brand training really came from a masterclass of sorts of working with all these different agencies. Mm-hmm. I've worked with Landor. I've worked with CBA. Your audience may or may not know these names, but and because of the nature of the work I would do with them, they would bring me into their brand creation process fairly early on, and so I learned from them, because at that time in my career, it just made me a more useful and sought after skilled craftsman for them. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we'll set that aside for a moment. About 11 years ago, I started studying behavioral neurology, which if your brain is wired like mine, when you hear about this field and this study, you go, oh my God, that sounds amazingly fun, right? Yeah.
For everybody?
Yeah, exactly. Not for everybody. But for me, it was super attractive.
Yeah.
So I started learning this. And behavioral neurology is, like any good branding person, is a term that I made up. It's a mishmash of a bunch of different modalities, of therapeutic modalities. It's got some classic psychology in my background. Anecdotally, I am the only person in my family without at least a bachelor's degree in psychology. There's NLP in there, there's Neo-Reichian model, and Ericksonian language patterning, a whole bunch of stuff that I call behavioral neurology because it communicates better than those individual acronyms. And then I started teaching this stuff as well. And those were two separate parts of my life. Well, about 5 years ago, they integrated. I was sitting on my couch. It was on a July day. Just sat upright. Oh my God, that's how brands work in our neurology. And I thought, I I got to share this with people. I've never done any public speaking in my life, but in that moment, like, I got to put together a talk and start sharing this. And so I started to do that. And lo and behold, I have zero fear of public speaking. Who knew? But I started giving this talk at trade shows, conferences, private corporations, to marketing teams and such like that. And then after about a year of this, I started to think to myself, I wonder if I can put this theory into a workshop, right? To help people implement this. Now, I still have my design business on the side doing industrial design. So I'm thinking this is like a side hustle. Maybe I'll help 5 clients a year in this stuff. Well, no sooner did I have that thought of maybe I can turn this into a workshop. I was at a conference delivering a talk. Afterwards, there's the drinks and the such like that after. And these guys come up to me and they say, we absolutely love what you were talking about. Our marketing isn't working. I think we need your help. How do you work with your clients? And I looked them dead in the eye. And without skipping a beat, I said, I have a workshop. I have nothing, right? And they said, fantastic. How much is it? And I'm like, it's this much. Like, sounds good. I'm like, in my back of my mind, I'm like, okay, I guess it's that much.
What just happened?
Right? Yeah, right? Like suddenly I have a client. And so, of course, I astutely said, well, I'm very busy. We're looking at a month and a half out before I can schedule you. They say that's perfect.
It takes time to prepare the workshop, of course.
Right. No, they don't know that, but I'm thinking, great. I just bought myself a month and a half to actually create the thing I'm going to deliver to them.
Yep.
Well, I do. And I deliver it. And honestly, Andrei, it worked even better than I thought it would. I had to spend half my time sort of keeping, internally oh my God, this is working. Wow, it's working. And I have to come off no, I've been doing this for years. And from there, that just launched the business. I realized then that this is really valuable. I mean, extremely valuable. The level of clarity I'm able to get with this methodology of using behavioral neurology as the pathway into discovering the brand is so valuable, and it gets to the real stuff so quickly. Because a lot of brand agencies and professionals, we find similar territory, but without this line of understanding of how brands work in our neurology, they take the long way. So it'll take a month or 2 to find information I'm able to get in about 2 meetings, honestly.
This reminds me of my favorite moment from Back to the Future Part 1.
Yeah.
Where the doc who's speaking to Marty for the first time goes do you know what this means?
Yeah,
this
right.
Means I finally invented something that works.
Yeah, right, exactly.
This is the moment that so many entrepreneurs go through. They keep inventing stuff that doesn't work until one day they're like, it works.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what you just said about what you shared about this workshop that you're doing, it looks like it's working. Wow.
Yeah, no kidding. And not only was it working, but it was brand discovery on jet fuel.
Yeah.
Right.
So look, you are too smart for me. So can you dumb this down a little bit?
Sure.
Because I think it will be useful for everyone. What's the difference between how a typical brand agency would treat a brand owner who comes into them and I need a logo, I need a tagline, whatever they need,
right?
And how you approach them and why your approach is not just revolutionary, different from everyone else because it has all those smart words behind it, but why it's actually better.
Yeah. So a lot of times, marketing agencies and even brand agencies who really are doing brand discovery in service of coming up with some visual assets like a logo and such like that. What they're doing is they're doing a combination thing. Yes, they'll interview the client. What do you like about this work, or X, Y, and Z? Tell us about your perceptions of the customer. But mostly they'll go talking to the customer, which is legit. But the reason why that's the long way and often gives false positives, or I call it low resolution brand information, is that there's a very specific way our brains work when we meet a business. There's generally, you can divide the brain into two parts, what I call the human brain and the critter brain. And really the critter brain is where all the action is. And it does only two things, and it does them very, very well. It does survival and it does emotions. This is why you hear a lot of people say like, oh, all buying decisions are emotional, but no one ever tells you which emotion or what the hell to do with it. It's all coming from this part of the brain.
Right.
But really, it's all about survival. What our brain really wants to know when it meets your business, whether it's a service or even a product, right, is quite literally, and I'm not kidding when I say this, it wants to know if you're going to kill me or not. And the way it determines if you're safe or not, if you're going to kill me or not, is we are designed to want to surround ourselves with like kind. And anything that this part of the brain, the critter brain, determines is not like kind, it then categorizes as a potential threat to survival. And no sale has ever been made when this part of the brain is going, oh no, this is a potential threat to survival, right? So that's what we're really going for, is what are the things that are inherent in this business that link to like-kind survival-based neurology. And the one thing that triggers this more than anything else is identity. We are literally looking for a like-kind match to our own identity, right? And within identity is like the granddaddy that says this is who I am is literally a statement of belief. Because all identities are literally statements of belief that start with the words I am. And that's all they are. So I often tell my clients, you have to tell your customer what your belief is. The fastest way to get to trust, right? The know, like, and trust of the sale. The fastest way to get to trust is say, we believe X, Y, and Z. And in communication, business communication, that can be done explicitly or implicitly, doesn't matter. Let them know what you believe. Now, what a lot of marketing and brand agencies are looking at is when they interview the customer to say to like, well, what do you like about this business? They are looking for that belief, but reflected in the map, the mental map of the world of their customer, which is why they get the low resolution stuff. I go direct to the source of my talent is digging into my client's brain in a way and pulling out from them the core belief, no matter if it's one person company or there's a team of 9 people I'm working with. I'm able to pull out the core belief that is really the thing that is underpinning this entire business. And once you get that belief, you have so much gold. It tells you how to communicate with your audience. It tells you who your audience is. And I'll get into that in a second. It also tells you how to frame your offers, how to make adjustments to your sales language, even how to not just frame your offers, but what offers could you be making, but you're not making now that are so on brand that, well, why are we missing this potential revenue, right? So all these things come out of understanding what's the main belief going on here. Because here's the thing. In any interaction between two people, the person with the strongest belief wins, right? I often use the example, if the child believes they deserve that piece of candy more than the parent believes they don't, guess who's getting candy, right? The kid is. So in any interaction, the person with the strongest belief wins. Once a business owner, once this is revealed, this resonant belief, and that becomes the core of the business communication, you win. Because the way we're designed, someone else comes along and says, oh my gosh, you believe the same thing I do. The critter brain calms down and goes, yes, we are open for business here. Right? You're about 90% of the way to the sale right now, right? Just by that, you believe the same thing I do. And if you're resonating that belief really strongly, they just adopt your belief and say, I'm in.
Yeah. You know,
That's how it works. And it's simple in its structure, but so complex in its execution.
you know, there's one thing I came up with early this year, kind of an epiphany came down on me, that there's kind of 5 things upon which the success of your business relies, right?
Yeah.
Kind of go concentric, right? Starting with the product. Is your product any good, right?
Yeah.
Then above the next circle is the offer. Do you have a way to compellingly do, like, is the offer compelling enough for the people? Around that is the message, right?
Yeah.
Do you convey that offer in a language that's compelling enough to a bunch of people? And then the next one is the audience. Are you conveying your message, your compelling message, to the right people? And then the last one is salesmanship. Are you closing in everyone who's closable, who got somewhat interested by your message, right? And the epiphany, there's nothing unique about this, but the epiphany to me was that if you've been in business for some time and you don't have the results that you hope you'd be getting, then at least one of these 5 things is not working.
Right.
Because if they were all working, you'd already been where you want to be.
Yeah.
And that to me was like, this is so interesting. And after I looked at that framework, I've, spoken to hundreds of business owners after. And when we spoke, what I realized is that for the vast majority of businesses, the problem usually is not the product.
Right.
It's usually not the offer, and rarely it's the salesmanship. I mean, they all can be improved, but the 2 toughest ones are the message and the audience, which is exactly what you're saying. Are you saying the right words to the right people about what you think is your stuff? So that's why I wanted to have you on the show, so that you can share, because at least it's my understanding, again, the dumbed down understanding of what you do is you help business owners find their message and deliver it the right way to the right people.
Yeah, it's what's the right message, but also what's the right frame. No one is in the business they think they're in.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, no one is in the business they think they're in. Right? I'm not in the brand business technically. I'm in the meaningful communication business, right? I once worked with a company that makes kitchen gadgets. And when we did this work, the main brand belief going on in the system was it's fun to show off, right? Now, beliefs don't have to be profound. They just have to be true, right? There was this moment when the CEO of the company, my methodology, we finally get to that moment where he says, you know what? I just love it when I have a dinner party and people come up to me and say, oh my God, I can't believe you made this food. And that sort of attention I get. And he was like almost embarrassed to say, it's like, I know this makes me sound shallow, but really what it's all about for me is this. And the 3 other VPs in the room, the marketing and the sales and the operations guy, they're like, yes, right? Because of course, company culture comes from all this work too, right? So they have built this culture around this unspoken frame. And once we discovered that, it's fun to show off, then we discover other parts of the brand. But what that translated to was where they had been selling their products, right? Like you said, like in the middle is the product, and that's what they were talking about. It's like, buy our things. It cooks faster. No skill needed. Great meals, which is exactly the same language their competition was using, right?
Yeah.
This is why their sales were flat for 2 years, and the reason why they hired me. Now that we understand the brand, now we know how to communicate with the audience, because we know their audience likes to show off. Remember, figure out your belief, go find the people that believe the same thing you do and sell them something.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it's all about. Well, that translated into, hey, do you want to be the star of the dinner party? Yeah. Whoa. Boy, do we have some products that you're going to like. You're going to be the star of the dinner party, even if you have no skills. Now all the benefits, right? It's going to be fast. There's almost no cleanup. So now the framing is correct, and now the communication is correct, and now the audience is correct. Hey, do you want to be the star of the dinner party?
Yeah.
So now they're selling dinner parties and showing off.
Mm.
They're not selling product, but they're selling product as a means to get to that goal.
Right.
And within a month, their sales, like the curve of the sales went up 10% just in 1 month. Just from doing low-hanging fruit from this, changing their Google AdWords spend, changing the words and the images on the already existing website. That's the least they could do right away. And they implemented that in scales. Boom. Because you're communicating in a way that triggers the part of the brain that says yes, that feels resonance and attraction.
Mm-hmm. And this is a brilliant example, right? It has nothing to do with coming up with a different logo or different name. Not even a tagline. I mean, it could be, this could be, it probably should be a tagline that you eventually, end up trademarking. But the essence of this is understanding what business you're actually in.
Yes, exactly. Another client, it's Rebecca'sVault.com. They are a gift concierge.
Mm-hmm.
Their message used to be, and we just finished working together. So she's probably not going to mind that I'm sort of helping her out here a little bit. I don't think she's even updated anything. The message used to be, the perfect gift. Find the perfect gift. Okay, that's about the gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just noticed your headline. Yeah, that's okay.
Because it's generic.
It's totally generic. The brand belief that we discovered is, you know what? It's not about the gift. It's about what the gift is nurturing. Oh, this is a relationship brand. This isn't a gift-giving brand. This is a brand about nurturing relationships, right?
Yep.
And the meaning behind that is because everyone deserves to be seen, valued, and appreciated. Oh gosh, this is about nurturing a relationship so that they get the C value and I forget the third one. It's blanked my mind now. But they get these things, right?
Yeah.
So we built a whole brand out of this, the whole thing, and now instead of find the perfect gift, now that we know that it's in the frame of relationships, here's where it is now. You have the perfect person. We have the perfect gift. They need to meet.
Oof.
Yeah, right? How that lands emotionally, right? All sales are emotional.
Yeah.
This is emotional language we're using. But in that frame is relationship. You have the perfect person. There's the one relationship.
Yeah, because guess what? Gifts require a giftee.
Exactly. It's about the relationship.
Yeah.
And that moment, and we identified 3 primary moments. There's the moment of giving the gift. There's the moment of opening the gift, and the moment of gratitude, right? 3 primary moments. You know what? Now we know exactly what visual imagery to use. That's going to be so on brand and all this stuff. But now that we know this is a relationship brand, we know that the language needs to be in the realm of relationships. And so the offers used to be, corporate gifts, personal gifts, like just functional, right? But now it is like cultivating relationships package. That's the corporate one, which is like, no, it's about cultivating a relationship.
Right.
And then the other one is like, oh my God, it's perfect, which is the emotion that comes up when you're giving the perfect gift. But it's about relationship. It's about one person saying it to another. And then we mapped out so that's another example of how understanding what business you're really in through the lens of your brand and your belief system impacts how you communicate.
Yeah.
In those 2 circles you just talked about, what am I going to say and who needs to hear it?
This is so good because I think these 2 examples are absolutely perfect because there's nothing really special about either of those products.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
oh yeah.
They're probably great. I'm not doubting the quality, but what do you remember? Right?
Exactly.
It's just another kitchen or gift company.
Exactly.
Whereas
so much competition.
With how you described it, it's a blue ocean.
It is. And the wonderful thing is every business has their unique thing. 2 businesses that have the exact same product can legit be right next to each other, thrive, have all the customers they need,
Yeah.
As long as they're not saying, hey, buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. Instead, if they're saying, hey, here's my meaning, here's what I mean in your world. And this business is going to attract all the people that resonate with that meaning. And this business is going to resonate with all the people who resonate with that meaning. And they're going to have thriving businesses. It almost becomes a case where there is no competition anymore. Because you're not talking about your thing. You're talking about the meaning, right?
So I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
When you explain this, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It's almost self-explanatory. Why does nobody else do it? Like, why don't business owners do it? Why don't marketing people do it? Like, it just makes so much sense.
The reason why,
I mean, other than you're so brilliant, but no, seriously, why is it so difficult for business owners to look at their stuff, not as their stuff, but what their stuff does to other people?
Yeah. I don't have an exact answer for that, honestly, because I'm like him, like, why isn't everyone else doing this? How am I so far as I know, one of the only people speaking in this way and framing in this way and understanding in this way? And it's so useful and powerful and impactful. The reason is, honestly, that the part of our brain, this critter brain, like I said, it only does emotion and survival. It has no access to language, none whatsoever. My job is to bring language to this part of the brain, like to interpret it, right? But because it has no access to language, it doesn't register in our day-to-day conscious experience. So there you are as a business owner. You got to think about what to say. What are you going to draw from? Well, you're going to draw from the parts of our brain that are processing logic and reason and the stuff that's happening right now. But meanwhile, there's this other part of the brain that's simply saying, survive, safe, not safe. Safe, we don't think in those terms, right? But yet that's what's going on. So I think the main reason why no one's doing this is because it's a hidden part of the brain.
I mean, look, the gift people, I mean, they're not idiots. They know that gifts are being gifted to somebody, like for a reason, right?
Yeah.
But yet it took them to meet with you to realize that, hey, we're selling the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Right. And that's absolutely fascinating to me.
Yeah. I mean, what I do is therapy, honestly. I mean, the whole behavioral neurology thing is a therapeutic technique.
Brand
therapy on a business as if the business is a person. Because that's literally how our neurology looks at it. It's looking at identities, right? The neurology that fires when you meet a new person is the same neurology that fires when you meet a new business or a product, right? Or new service business. And try doing therapy on yourself sometime and let me know how that goes. It's nearly impossible, right? But coming from the outside, having someone from the outside do the therapy on you, on your business, that works.
Right.
What's the question earlier? I was like, how come marketing agencies aren't doing this? I happened to discover this methodology in a completely separate thing. Remember I said, it's like, that looked interesting to me. I wasn't even thinking that this would integrate into a business. It just looked interesting. I wanted to learn something new. Yet lo and behold, when it integrated, I'm like, oh my God, that's how brands work in our neurology. Then it turned into a business. But the time between learning it and that moment happening was a good 5 years, Andrei. Like not even I was thinking in those terms.
Right.
Right?
Huh.
Yeah. And it's been an incredible journey ever since.
So here's the question for you. Let's imagine the world. Let's say, you as a scientist or, however you see yourself as. Let's say you've made the point and the entire world of marketing has changed to
yes, that's actually my goal.
To adopt your vision, and everyone's like, oh, the earth is not flat. Like, let's do this. If we were to live in the world where everyone really saw this as a natural way of marketing and advertising and telling the world about their products and services, how would that look like if everyone was doing this?
Yes, that was another key moment in my life when I actually did that. And it happened quite organically. First of all, the short answer is people would be making more sales and feeling good about doing that, because a lot of people who get into business aren't naturally good at selling, and it feels bad. And there's a reason why that I won't go into, but essentially when we ask, we tend to feel guilty, and that's asking for a sale. When we give, we feel innocent. So it has to deal with issues of guilt.
Say this again. This is worth repeating. This is great.
Yeah. When we ask, we feel guilty. When we give, we feel innocent. This is universal across all humanity. And asking for a sale is an ask. So we generally feel guilty about that. We don't know why. And that's why a lot of people say, oh, I hate sales. I'm bad at it. Well, yeah, because you feel guilty at it, right? But that's kind of anecdotal to the whole thing. Here's a moment that happened to me, and it was the moment that convinced me that I don't have a business, I have a mission. I was walking the floor of the International Houseware Show. This is a yearly trade show in Chicago. Imagine the largest Bed Bath & Beyond, to pick something that everyone's familiar with, that you have ever experienced, and then multiply that by maybe 10 to 20. Ooh. That's how big this is. Now fill it with housewares and everything from everything. And I noticed when you're walking that floor, like all the people selling pots and pans are with pots and pans people, and the humidifiers are with humidifiers, and like the knives are with knives. It's all grouped together.
And if you buy this together, yeah, okay.
Well, no, but that's like you're in a store, but you also have a representative there, right? Yeah. Saying, hey, this is what we're all about. And I noticed that they were all saying the exact same thing. And I turned to a colleague of mine, because we actually had a product in the show that we had invented, that we just turned to each other. It's like, oh my God, half of these companies are not going to be around in 5 years. You can just tell, right? And that's when it hit me. The world of commerce is right now, the language is transactional. Buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. And then I stepped into the frame of human beings out there in the world and how much of the language of commerce we hear in any given day or in any given lifetime. And how much of that is some version of buy my thing. And how that impacts our relationships with ourselves, with the people we love, with the world itself, and how we perceive and frame our place in the world. Transaction. This for that. And in that moment, I said, if only these people knew that if instead of saying buy my thing, they were saying, here's what I mean in your world. Then I did the same exercise. It's happened almost in a split second. But imagine a child growing up in a world where instead of being surrounded by the language of commerce being transactional, they were instead surrounded by the language of meaning. Here's what my meaning is. No, here's what, and here's what my meaning is, and here's my meaning. And suddenly the frame of meaning becomes the dominant frame, not transaction, but meaning. What kind of relationship with themselves is that child going to have as they grow up, with the loved ones, with the world, with their place in the world, when everything is now meaning and not transaction? Wow. That's my mission. One business at a time, right?
Well, speaking of one business at a time, when do you find is the right time for a business to speak to you about this? Is this before they start? Is when they start and realize that they're not going as fast as they thought they would be? When they're nearly dead? When, like, what's the sweet spot for the brand therapy?
Yeah, it is brand therapy. This is what happens. This is the experience my customers who find me are having. They're ready to grow. They know that. Good. I'm ready to grow. Maybe it's I'm growing this much and I've plateaued of some sort and I want to grow some more, or sales have been flat, whatever. I'm ready to grow.
Yeah.
And their first thought is, I need to do marketing, right?
Yeah.
Stop those people. I always say, friends don't let friends do marketing unless they talk to Michael first. Because what I do is the step you need to take before you do that marketing. Because here's what I like to say, or here's how to understand it. Your marketing is like asking someone on a date. Your brand is the reason why they said yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't you want to know what's going to make that person say yes before you ask them out? How is that going to impact how you ask them out? Your success, right?
Right.
And all those sorts of things. So I'm the step that you need to take before you do your marketing. Now, I have worked with some startups. Like, they haven't done anything yet. They're still starting up. And oh boy, do we have fun. And boy, are they smart. Because we nail everything, and they're out of the gate and they are killing it.
Mm-hmm.
But that rarely happens. So usually someone finds me, they've been in business for a while and they're ready to grow. How do we grow? We need to do marketing. Stop. You need to figure out this piece first, because doing this is the rocket fuel of any marketing and your sales growth cycle. And just, how do you express yourself in the marketplace in a way that make people want to say yes to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now go send out that message. Now go send that message. That's the marketing. Yeah.
And I think that's very much in line with what I've been saying all along, right? It's not about coming up with the cutest name or the best looking logo. It's about building something that people could connect with.
Yes.
And tying it to something that's unique, that you can own, and that you in fact own. That's how you build a great brand over time.
Yeah.
Right? There's the reason Apple is not because it's Apple, but because they do.
Yeah.
They give to people what people expect from Apple, right? They would have gotten to the exact same level of success if they were a plum or a pineapple, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing to do with that. But where it starts mattering, there's kind of two pieces to this, the way I see it. Is one is the message, which is what you just explained, and without it, most of those businesses don't survive, because they can't convince enough people from the market that there's something interesting about them, and two is they bore themselves to death.
Yeah.
Because when you don't see what makes you different from everyone else, you just don't have that passion to keep going.
Exactly.
And, it's right. So that's kind of
true.
The one side of it, and the other side of it is the traditional understanding of branding is that whatever name you came up with, you got to own it. And when the two things are put together, that's how you build a valuable brand. Because look, the way we work is first thing we do is to do a trademark search to see if the brand that people want to do is trademarkable. And when the answer is no, then it's always a shock first, right? They go, well, what do you mean it's not? Like, what if we add a comma here or a dash? And I say, the name may be great. It doesn't matter if you can't own a real empire brand out of this, right? Because the reason you're going to build a successful brand is not because you came up with this name, but because you came up with this concept, which is brilliant. And you can do the exact same thing under a completely different name. And as long as you own that name and continue to explain to the people your concept, that's where the money is. That's where the value is. And that's exactly what you're teaching us. So that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because, we did have a conversation before, and like this exactly the type of person who could convey this idea just differently.
Yeah, for sure. And before we wrap up, I want to give your audience three things. I want to give them two actionable pieces of
You stole my question, but they're
okay.
Answer the question without me asking the question.
That's because, Andrei, you and I are on the same. We think the same.
Same way.
So I want to give them a couple of pieces of actionable advice, and then invite them. I want to give them something. So websites are super important for so many businesses. When a person lands on your website, the way our brain is designed, they need to know one of two things right away. They need to know what's the main outcome you offer, or that I'm going to get, and what is the main brand belief. And here's why. I'm searching for your thing, and you come up on the Google machine, or however I find you, and I click. And in that moment, just before I click, my brain is filled with question marks.
Mm-hmm.
Where am I landing here? It's like buying a plane, and you don't know the destination. You just get on and we're going to land, and you're going to get off and you're like, where am I? Right? That's exactly what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that state, even though it's momentary, is a place of confusion or lack of clarity for a brain. So what we need to do to help land them is, what's the outcome? In other words, are you in the right place? And do you believe the same thing I do? In other words, are you safe here? And whichever one you do first, the other one comes second. And what you do after that in your homepage and your website almost doesn't matter. And here's how to know the difference. If someone already knows what the outcome is, like you're a plumber, there is zero mystery of what the outcome is of a plumber, right?
Right.
Well, then you need to start with the belief. Because they have, but then you also, like, we believe X, Y, and Z. Plumbing services for the greater whatever area, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that belief can be expressed in different ways. It doesn't have to say we believe, but it's just, it's a statement of belief.
Mm-hmm.
If people don't know clearly as just intuitively what you do, then you start with the outcome first, and you follow with the belief. That's number one. Number two, because this is in your realm tangentially with naming and such like that, like finding a good trademarkable name. There are so many websites that finding a good URL is so difficult. You might have a great name, but the URL of that name might be taken or something like that. When you are finding a name for your URL, get creative with it. Almost, and this is how you can also brand even your URL. For instance, my company is called Magnetic Mind Studio, but my URL is mindmagnetizer.com, right? I've seen people with very common names that you can't find the available URL for just that name. I'm just going to pick a word out of the hat, like the word twist, right? The name of our company is Twist, but twist.com is taken by someone somewhere, or a totally different business in a different category. Play with it. What's your brand about? Oh, Twist is all about seeing things differently. Now you can name your URL Perceived Twist, or the Twist Perception. Now it becomes a statement. It becomes part of the brand. And the chances of you finding a really unique URL that way are really high, and cheap one too. So turn your URL into a statement. Plus, it's more memorable. It's more memorable. Right? So those are the two pieces of actionable advice. And now an offer I'd like to extend to your audience. If they go to my website, mindmagnetizer.com, I'm happy to offer them absolutely free 45 minutes of my time to work on their brand.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding at all. Up in the upper right, you'll see a little thing that says schedule a call, and it'll choose between a 15-minute conversation or a 45-minute conversation. Pick the 45. Now that you've gotten to know me, what I do in these calls, these are not sales calls. These are, let's start working on your thing right now. And we spend about 40 minutes on your brand, where we dig into the belief system. Everyone who comes away from a call with me gets a totally unique insight into their brand that they never had before. And then, of course, at the end, I'm going to, if it looks like, oh my gosh, we're getting along really well and there's more to explore here, I'm just simply going to say, hey, do you want to continue with this, or are you cool? But the whole thing is about giving to them this insight, this new way of perceiving their business.
Well, let me just dump this down to, unless you have a message that perfectly lands every time, talk to
Yeah.
Michael for 45
Yeah.
minutes and see if he can make your message better.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just as simple as that.
Absolutely. I did 2 of those calls earlier today,
Mm.
and we had a great time.
So that was great, Michael. Really, really excited for this interview. It was great. I think you shared some
Had a
really
great time.
good pieces of advice, and I so agree with you about that. It's not about the thing; it's about the message behind it, the reason behind it.
Yeah, the meaning.
When you were talking about websites, even if your only differentiator is the price, if you're selling on low price, which is rarely a great idea, but even then, it's still about the belief. Why you think the lowest price is the is the reason that your product is better.
Literally, I don't think Walmart has ever done this, because they're the low price leader. I mean, they are literally an organization based on low prices.
Yeah.
But within that is a belief.
Yeah.
And basically,
because they believe that giving people low prices means something.
Yeah. Basically, their belief is things shouldn't cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right. Or to have the things you want in life shouldn't cost you a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now imagine Walmart, instead of saying, hey, the low cost leader, instead say, we're Walmart. We think you shouldn't have to pay a lot of money to have the good things you need in life. Here's what we got going on sale here today. Oh my God. Now all the baggage that Walmart has of like, oh, it's crap, it's this, and all the negative feelings, that's because they framed it only about price. If they had framed their business about, we do think you deserve to have access to these things. So we work hard to drive the price lower so that you can have access to these things. The people who are bagging on Walmart wouldn't be bagging on Walmart.
See what he's just done? It's so good. Yeah. So again, if you need something like this to your message, talk to Michael, 45 minutes free, and we'll see where it takes you. Michael, it's been great having you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks, Andrei. It's been a pleasure.
So there you have it. Michael and I would love to hear from you. What did you learn from this that you can implement in your business right away? How are you going to change your marketing message so that it lands better, so that it conveys a better idea about your products and your services? What's your biggest takeaway? Post your comment below and share this interview with your friends. And of course, subscribe and like. And as always, if you think you deserve to be on the show, send me an email to next@kickassbrandshow.com. It's next@kickassbrandshow.com. And I'll see you in the next video.